What's up everybody, welcome back. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on these videos. You can always check out all the other videos in the playlist up in the icon or by clicking the link in the description below, and new videos come out every Sunday morning. Thanks for sticking around. This is going to be, I think, the last video we do on chipping for now. Some of these things I'm going to have to come back and revamp later, I think, because I am trying to be detailed and exhaustive, but it's very difficult because golf is so complex. So maybe in the future I'll come back and add some versions to this, but for now I think this is going to do it on chipping, and then we'll move on to pitching. So in this video we're going to discuss a little bit more on the methods, the pre-shot routine, and how the body is moving to chip the ball. So in the first video we talked about how the stroke works, and we're going to continue with that, and I'm going to give you a little bit more detail about the stroke. Now, the positions and all, if you need to check that out, go back and watch the first video of this chipping. It'll be 8.1. So the setup and the foundations, that's all there. But a little bit more about the method and the stroke. The stroke definitely is much like a putting stroke, and the wrists don't actually break down. The club doesn't actually pass us through the shot when we're chipping. When we chip, we want to maintain the club behind the hands in front. This is very important. A motion like this, so we're chasing the ball to the hole, the hands follow through straight. It's very much like underhand tossing something to a target, skee ball. It feels very much like that. Or I rotate under and through. And the other thing is, your stroke, you want it to be fluid. And just like in the putting stroke, the shaft does flex when we chip it. You want to be able to feel this flex in your stroke so that this flex is unflexing through the ball. This creates a very consistent stroke. For instance, when I go back and I move back and I change directions, I can feel the club flexing backwards, and then when it comes through the ball, I feel it unflexing through the ball. So it's really working like this backwards and then like this through the ball. The weaker your shafts are, the more you'll be able to feel this. Nevertheless, you can feel it if you're sensitive enough. And remember, the grip pressure is rather light. I have it just enough to where it's not twisting in my hand, but it's extremely light. I'm not choking down on the club at all. I'm not squeezing it at all. It's just a very light grip. This is my stroke here for this particular line. Now where I'm standing here, of course, is the ball. The ball would be below my feet. I'm standing downhill. But this is what my stroke would look like here. The other thing to notice is that as I'm making this stroke, notice that my lower body is turning. It's not fixed. We don't just rotate the upper body on top of the lower body. This is just not fluid enough. The legs have to move like so to give you some fluidity and stability. It's because when you're moving this backwards, you're changing your balance, and your feet have to move to adjust to that. So the legs are definitely working like this. In the backswing, the left knee comes forward, the right knee goes back a little bit, and then through the follow through, the opposite happens. The left knee goes back and the right knee comes through. Now remember, of course, I'm speaking from the perspective of a right-handed golfer. If you are left-handed, you'll have to reverse all of this. But I imagine you're accustomed to that anyway. So when I chip, I'm turning as a whole unit back and forward, and then coming through. If I were to try to chip without moving my lower body, it's not nearly as fluid for me. I can really control it well by using my legs and being well balanced. So once you get into your position to chip the ball, you want your stroke to be nice and smooth. You do not want to make a stroke that looks something like this, that's very aggressive through. Just a nice smooth tempo, the same way you would when you putt the ball. Something like this. This is just fine. If you need to hit it harder, take it back farther. I don't want to accelerate the club too much when I go forward, nor do I want to decelerate going down. Just a nice smooth flex. Again, if you can feel the flex of the shaft, you will feel how aggressive you need to be through the ball. Sometimes it's helpful when you're taking your practice strokes just to look at the shaft while you're swinging it, and then you can see how it's flexing. If you put your eyesight about right here while you're swinging, you can see the shaft flex. And you can time that so that it passes under the ball. It unflexes under the ball or through the ball. So it also needs to be said that every shot, with the exception of putting, and even putting maybe, but all of the other shots are going to be lie dependent. And that means you must analyze how the ball is sitting on the ground. This is one of the first things you need to notice as you walk up to your ball as a part of your pre-shot routine. Your pre-shot routine firstly is going to be, first step, investigate the lie. See how the ball is on the ground. What is the shape of the ground? Is it soft? Is it wet? Is it hard pan? Is the ball sitting down a little bit? Is it sitting very up a little bit? Is it in rough? Is it on fairway? The lie is going to dictate what kind of shot we can hit out of it. So the first thing you need to do is analyze what kind of lie you have. We will talk about hitting different shots out of different lies a little bit later, but right now we're just assuming that the lie is good or is okay, that it's not an adverse kind of lie. If the lie is not a good lie, then you're going to have to take different measures to hit the ball. So certainly all of your shots are lie dependent that are not taken from the green. Chipping, pitching, approaching, all of those shots will depend on what kind of lie you have. So take great care in analyzing and determining what kind of lie it is that you have, because that's going to determine what kind of shot you can hit from that lie. The next step in my pre-shot routine is determining where the pin is and what kind of slope it's on and where I want the ball to be after I get done chipping it. I mean, of course, it would be nice to chip the ball in, but I'm not expecting to chip the ball in every time. I am expecting to leave it relatively close to the hole within my 5-foot circle. And typically, you want to leave the ball below the hole so your putt is going to be uphill. Remember, we talked about how putting uphill is much easier than putting downhill. So as a process of my chipping, I'm thinking, how can I leave the ball below the hole so I have an uphill putt to finish? After I've determined where I want the ball to kind of finish, that's when I apply my green reading skills and I pick a target at which I want to land the ball so that the ball will finish in my desired location. This is all part of my pre-shot routine, and it's kind of like the thought processes that happen before I actually step up to the ball. When I'm walking up to the green, as I'm approaching the green on the cart, I'm thinking about these things so that I can decide what I'm going to do. And another part of your pre-shot routine is then once you decide what spot you want to land on, you apply the techniques that we talked about last time, deciding what club you're actually going to use to get the ball to end up where you want it to. So club selection is also a part of your pre-shot routine. Once you've done all of this and you've selected your club and now you're ready to chip the ball. Once you're finally ready to chip the ball, you want to stand behind the ball and your intended target line and line it up the same way we would a putt, visualizing the path, lining up with your target, lining up with your spot that you want it to land on. And I set up just inside the ball. You want to leave enough space between the ball and your club so that you're taking your practice strokes well away from the ball as to not accidentally hit the ball or hit some piece of grass that then hits the ball. So you want to leave enough room where you're not hitting the ball, but you do want to set up close enough so that the lie and the stance that you're taking is going to be as close as possible to the actual stance of the ball that you're hitting on. So if I take practice strokes here, it's going to be very similar, if not almost the same, as to the actual stroke that I'm going to take here. And I do recommend taking practice strokes. Practice strokes are important so that you can let your body have an idea of what you want to do, and then you're just going to replicate that process. Furthermore, the practice strokes allow you to see where the club is bottoming out on that particular slope. So when I take these practice strokes here, I see that the club is bottoming out here. If I were going to hit on this type of a lie, I just take some strokes and I see that the club bottoms out right here, so I need the ball to be right there. I take these practice strokes so I can determine where my club is bottoming out on that particular slope. When we play golf, it's very rare that we have a completely flat lie, so we need to be able to adjust our technique to accommodate the different lies that we may encounter on the course. To do this, just take a couple of practice strokes very gently and just see where the club is bottoming out. For instance, for me, on this type of slope, the club is bottoming out there. So I need to place the ball there relative to my stance. So I would do this on this lie if I'm chipping this ball, say this direction. Now I don't really have a target picked out here. I'm just showing you my routine that I'm going to use to chip these balls. I'm just going to bump them up onto the green with no target in mind. So I take these strokes, and I take enough practice strokes until I feel comfortable with my position, with what I'm doing, with the way that my body feels. Once I'm comfortable, I step up and hit the ball almost immediately with not much thought. I've already taken the time to process where I want the ball to go, where my direction of travel is, how far I want to hit it, and I try to take my practice strokes with the same power that I'm going to use on the shot itself. I practice as if I'm actually hitting the chip that I want to hit with my practice strokes, and then I set up to it and then hit it. You want to take practice strokes because it's helpful to feel the weight of the club, how it's reacting on that part of the ground. So I would take strokes like this until I feel comfortable, and I know the ball is there, so I step up, adjust, and I chip it. And you see that that was very well struck in the center of the face. Same thing here, I'll take a few strokes until I feel comfortable, and then I step up and repeat. When you repeat the process like this, when you just step up and hit it after doing that stroke, you're going to be more likely to make a good stroke because you've already made the stroke several times and you just repeat the process. This makes it a lot easier to hit the middle of the club face, to hit the ground where you want to have some repeatability and some consistency. Another thing that I do as a part of my routine before I hit the ball is I will push the club down into the ground a few times and bounce it. I will let it hit the ground. Sometimes I do this subconsciously, and other times I do it consciously, but it lets me know where the ground is, where the bottom of my swing needs to be. I use that to test out where I need it to be. Oftentimes I will bounce it a couple of times before I take my stroke, so I can tell how deep the grass is, how far down it goes, how different it is from the top of the grass to the ground surface. Because sometimes the ball may be sitting up, like this grass is kind of thick. You see, I can press my club in there, and this grass is about an inch deep. So if the ball is sitting up on the top of this grass, then I don't want to necessarily pass towards the bottom of the ground because then it's going to hit way up on the club face. So I have to adjust that height a little bit, and I just kind of determine where that is by putting the club down into the ground and bouncing it a little bit so I can tell where I need to pass the club to hit it well. Okay, I think that's going to do it for chipping for now. Be sure to check out 2 of my other videos here and subscribe here, and we're going to pick it up next time with some pitching things. Till next time.